Hey guys, in this video, we want to show you how to really clean your Haitian board. We do already have a service video out there which covers some of these topics, but today we just want to show the high level aspects of really cleaning your board after getting it dirty in a ride.
I was not watching where I was going.
So what we're going to need as a minimum to do this is our Evolve wire tool with the Allen key, a rag, some cleaning solution or even a bowl of water, bearing lube and our grease. And to go even further, we have a can of compressed air for dusting out the motors. We have some cleaning solution. We have our grip gum and a pipe cleaner for the carbon heatsink. We're going to start with removing the wheels. So we'll start at the back first. As we remove the wheels, we're also going to remove the bearings from them. So we can wiggle the bearings out using the axle. While we're here, we can also take off the belt cover and set it aside. Then we take off the drive gear and the belt and remove the drive gear bearing. You set those parts aside and move to the front wheel. And as with the rear, we also want to remove the bearings as we're pulling it off. Set the wheel down and the bearings with it. Once you've removed your front wheel, you can lay the board over. For this, you can either use your wheels that you've already removed from the board, or in my case, I'm using a set of tires that we had lying around. So we're going to roll it over onto those tires, and that helps keep the board off the bench that we're working on. With our wire tool, we're going to keep removing the remaining two wheels. And again, remove the bearings out of the wheels. So with our wheels removed from the deck, we want to disassemble each of the trucks. We'll start with the rear. We're going to remove the top kingpin nut, and then once we have our strut free, we can disconnect the motors and remove the strut completely from the truck assembly. We can pull our motor connectors out of the clips and disconnect. Our strut then comes free and we can put it off to the side. Remove the bushing barrel and washer, and continue with removing the truck arm nut. Remove the cone and washer, the truck arm and the remaining barrel. Now we can move to the front. So same way as the rear, we're going to remove the strut first. Remove the bushing cone and washer. Set the strut off to the side. Remove the barrel and the barrel washer. Now we can remove our truck arm. Now we have our trucks disassembled, we have the board down to a bare state, which gives us a good platform to start with our cleaning. We'll start with one of our rags, and we just want to clean up the trucks first. So we're going to clean up the base plates, get any excess grease out from around the base plate and the nuts, and from around those brackets. We'll do the same for the front. Now we can set that rag aside, grab a cleaner rag and our spray solution, and we're going to clean down the rest of the underside of the deck, going all around the ends of the carbon, across the battery case and the heatsink. And we're going to try and get out all that dirt and get it back to looking as good as possible. So for this, we're using a cleaning solution. You can use a damp rag to clean your board down. If you are going to do that, use as little water as possible. We want as little moisture and water hanging around the board as possible. We don't want it going into any of the battery case or the crevices. Keep that in mind when you're cleaning. For the carbon hadians, the heatsink does have some venting fins on the back. Now the easiest way to clean these is to simply use a pipe cleaner. These are available at most cheap shops or arts and crafts stores. All we want to do is feed it in from the front, and you'll feel it may have a bit of resistance on some of the holes, but you can see it helps pull out any of the loose debris that might be stuck in there. Now that we've cleaned down the deck and we've cleaned out our vents, before we start reassembling our trucks, we want to continue with the deck. So we're going to flip it over and clean our top side. So we have our grip tape and we've got little bits of carbon showing all around it. So we're going to start with our grip cleaner. Before we flip the deck back over to assemble the trucks, we just want to do a quick clean on top around the edges. Make sure we're happy with the finish. We're going to clean the top of our trucks and the ends of the deck, around the deck, edges. So now that we're happy with the state of our deck, we can flip it over and get ready for our truck assemblies. So before we start assembling the trucks, we want to clean all the individual components so that we can assemble the trucks in one go. Let's start with our bushings and our washers. We just want to give them a quick wipe to get any old grease and debris out of them. So we want to do this to all of them. So once we have our bushings clean, they're ready for assembly. Before we can start though, we need to clean actual truck components. So we're going to start with our truck arms and then move to our struts. This truck arm, you can see, has got a fair amount of debris and grease all over it. The excess grease and debris on the pivot pin is going to cause noise when you're carving and like turning on the board, and the rest of the debris is just going to build up over time and wear out your components a bit quicker. It's a good idea to clean all of these components really well before we re-grease them and assemble them back to the board. So now the rear truck, we have a few more things to consider. We have the motors still assembled and we want to try and keep them on so we don't have to muck around with our belt tensions after unless it's really necessary. So we're going to clean the strut in around them first. Clean our axles and our motor plates. And we also want to clean around the motors. One last thing we want to do with the motors before we reassemble the rear assembly is using this can of compressed air, which is essentially a keyboard duster, and we can blow out our motors. One final step we want to do before we start reassembling the board is just lubricating our bearings that we removed. As you're adding the lubrication to the bearings, it's always a good idea to give them a quick spin. It works the lube in and it lets you feel the condition of the bearings. If they're feeling rough or gritty as they're spinning, it's always a good idea to look at getting a new set for your board. We're going to give our hubs, gears and belts a quick clean with our cloth. Just get them looking good again before we get to the assembly. As with any time where we have our board apart, it's always a good idea to check those wearable items such as our belts and gears for any kind of debris, rocks, twigs that might be stuck in those teeth. It's going to cause damage and affect your overall ride. These ones are all good, so we're going to keep going. Now that we've got our deck cleaned, our bearings lubricated and our hubs and trucks are all cleaned, all we have to do now is assemble. We're going to add a little bit of lubrication along the way to the bushings and to the hubs where the bearings want to sit. For more information on this, you can have a look at one of our previous service videos. There we have it, our carbon stripped, cleaned, reassembled and ready to get you back out riding. The bamboo is still much the same process, just with the addition of cleaning around that bolt-on battery case, getting in and around all those joins and crevices, making sure that if you're using a damp rag, we're not getting too much moisture into the gaps where we don't want them. The process we've shown you is how to clean your board without disassembling any of the major electrical components. This is something we like to avoid to limit the impact we have on any of those integral parts. If at any point you feel you need to disassemble these components, please get in contact with Evolve before going ahead with anything. Thanks for watching the video. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and don't forget to check out our how-to playlist for more tips and tricks for you to enjoy riding your board even more. Thanks guys, and ride safe.